Time to fill that out. We are setting up the webinars for next year, so we're looking for topics. We're also looking for ways to improve this. If you could just please take the time to fill that out. If you would like us to mail you a certificate, please check off yes and then type in your mailing address. And that if people are sharing a computer, because I know some folks, there's several people in the room looking at this, and you're all viewing the webinar, just please list all the people who are requesting a certificate. If I can just get all that information all in one spot, it makes it a lot easier for me to send them out. And I know I am behind on sending these out, but I have sent out the ones from June, and I will be sending out the rest of them, hopefully by the end of next week. I do apologize for that. So without further ado, let's get the star of the show here. I'd like to introduce right now Bill Gamble. He is a statewide trainer for the Mental Health Empowerment Project. He has been an advocate for many years, and he is a statewide advocate and trainer with the Mental Health Empowerment Project now. I met him when I first started working here about 3.5 years ago, and I'll never forget that. You never get a second chance to make a first impression, but I won't go into the details with that. And with that, I introduce Bill Gamble. Bill?
Hi, folks. I have Brenda waving hi to me. I hope people can forgive me because I have never been so nervous in my life. I have been doing presentations on a regular basis, workshops and training since about 1993. And I am generally really comfortable. Then again, I generally have a live audience. And I'm just a tad nervous, but I hope you will all bear with me, and we'll get through this. I started out as an advocate probably also around 1993 or 1994. Started working as an advocate, and for me it was a really tough job. I was an advocate in a rather large, what I thought is a large county, Orange County, and there were 4 advocates for the whole county, and I burned out real fast. So I became the coordinator of the advocacy program, figuring that would be much less stressful. But then I had the problems, all the advocates come through with all the problems of all the people they were dealing with, and I found that also stressful. So then through some great decision of my own, I became became a program manager for an independent living center in Sullivan County, New York. So now I had the problems of all the advocates from all different disabilities coming to me, and it was a wonderful job, and I was working with wonderful people, but I found it very stressful. So I became a trainer of advocacy, going by my motto of those who can do and those who don't teach, which led me to several training jobs currently with the Mental Health Empowerment Project. And, we're here today. We're going to talk about self-advocacy and, the art of speaking for ourselves. And a lot of times when I use the term self-advocacy or the term advocacy in general, people think it's this really formal, really complicated thing that you go and you learn to do. And bottom line is we're all advocates, and advocating for ourselves is something that, we do. We start when we're very young, before we can speak. I mean, when we're babies, and, we are hungry, or if we need our diaper changed, what do? We cry. We have a need, and we need to express a way, to get our need met. And, it's a very basic way, but that's how we start. And, today we're just going to talk about some ways to do things in a more formal manner, and how to speak out, and be heard, and to get our needs met, and to try and do so with some experience, and try to do so without agitating others. So if we can get on to the second slide here. Tony, where's my slide button?
Let's see.
No?
Yeah, just click that and click the little arrow.
Okay. So it says advocacy is speaking in support of something on the next slide, which Tony has as slide 5. It says advocacy is a type of problem solving designed to protect personal rights and to ensure a dignified existence. Advocacy assumes that people have rights, and those rights are enforceable. Advocacy works best when focused on something specific. Advocacy is chiefly concerned with the rights or benefits which someone is already entitled. Key concepts of advocacy are equality, inclusion, empowerment, and rights. So bottom line, we're just talking about speaking up for ourselves. And, so many things that we ask for, that we need help with, or that we need in life, are things that we're already entitled to. I mean, America is this amazing place. We have so many rights that I don't think any one person could begin to know what all the rights we have and all the things that we are entitled to. Generally we have to learn as we go on. We have a need, and we try to have it met, and we have to learn about what our rights are in any specific situation as time goes on. But they're all based in real simple concepts: equality, inclusion, empowerment, and rights. It says on the next slide, slide 6, an advocate is a person who speaks in support of something or pleads another's cause. The word comes from the Latin ad, meaning to, and vocare, meaning to call. The verb advocate means to speak or write in support of something. In advocacy, that's all we're doing. We're speaking out. We're speaking up. We're trying to get our needs met. We're trying to have our voice heard. Okay, and that was slide 6. We'll now look at slide 7. In slide 7, we're going to start to look at the different types of advocacy. And something I hope we see as we look at these different types is, bottom line is, every type of advocacy we look at, goes in support of self-advocacy. We look at different types, like we look at legal advocacy, legislative advocacy, personal advocacy, whatever we look at in the next slides. They're all tools we would use in self-advocacy in getting our needs met, because the most important thing, I believe, in self-advocacy is the fact that we don't, self-advocacy doesn't mean that we do it alone or that we do it all ourselves. I think that's a big misconception. I mean, when we can get support, when we can have people do, help us with our efforts, why wouldn't we? I think the important concept in self-advocacy is the fact that it's self-directed. It's us getting our needs met with help, but it's, our chosen direction, our chosen need, not the needs of others. And not doing it, definitely not the outcome of others want for us. So the first one we'll look at on slide 8 is systems advocacy. And it says that systems advocacy is an effort to change policy, rules, or laws which determine how services are provided. Because systems advocacy works to cause change in organizations, service systems, or laws, it requires a long-term, sustained effort by a number of people. It is harder to change how an organization or system treats a whole group of persons than it is to change a decision made by one person about the situation of another. So, systems advocacy is really that. It's trying to change the system. It's best done by many people as opposed to trying to be done by one person. A couple good examples of systems advocacy. One is, I just went blank, and I knew this would happen looking at a screen and not at people. Timothy's Law. I'm sorry. Timothy's Law. Was just change the system. Same thing with parity. The one I'm going to bring up because it's a real personal example of mine. I don't know how well it's going to go over, but is what I guess today we call assisted outpatient treatment. Is that correct? AOT, assisted outpatient. We used to have another name for it when before this law came to pass, but I don't believe that I am at liberty to use the other name we had for it at the time. But I was a person, like many people I know, we were opposed to assisted outpatient treatment. And our systemic effort, our systems advocacy was to try and stop this law. Of course, there was another group of people working to have assisted outpatient treatment. And the other side was bigger, the other side was stronger, the other side, whatever. Today we have AOT. Will we always? I don't know. We'll see what the next, round of systems advocacy in this manner brings when the law sunsets again. But systems advocacy is trying to change the big picture. And, a good part of this, and something I've been getting interested in lately, is legislative advocacy, trying to change laws, trying to create laws. I've recently been getting more interested in how laws are made. And a partner of mine from the office has come up with this nice legislative advocacy guide that she was using. And, for me, it's become something I'm becoming really interested in. I'm hoping other people are too, so next time, there's a law at hand or we see the need for something, that we can have our own grassroots movement and, we can advocate for laws and we can advocate for changes in laws ourselves. Okay, we'll change to the next slide, which is 9. And it talks about legal advocacy. And legal advocacy is what lawyers are paid to do. It is necessary when you have trouble with the law, either criminal or civil. If your problem involves a judge, a court, and or a hearing, you'll most likely need a legal advocate. I know working as an advocate, particularly in the mid-90s, everybody who called me wanted me to be their junior lawyer, and it's not what we did as peer advocates. It's not, something in the scope of what we could do. But everybody I talked to wanted to sue. They had been wrong and sued. Lawsuit is really rare, and it's definitely not something that, as an advocate, I can help with others, maybe help them, be of support and help them gather information and help them find legal advocacy. But legal advocacy, bottom line, is sometimes real necessary. I know the example I like, that I don't know if other people will, but when I was used before he passed away was Johnny Cochran. Love him or hate him, he was the consummate legal advocate. Before that, my great example was a great civil rights attorney by the name of Bill Kunstler. When Bill Kunstler passed away, I started changing my ways in life because I figured, who else could truly represent me? And, there have been some great legal advocates out there, and as lay people, they aren't us. But, can often in our self-advocacy efforts be important that, if there's a reason, if there's a need, and we can find one to work with us, to hire a legal advocate. I know in the 80s, I applied for Social Security, I applied for SSI, I applied for SSD, anything I can get my hands on. And probably a legal advocate is what I needed. We didn't have peer advocacy in our in my county at the time, and to even help me find a legal advocate or tell me what my rights were, what my options were. And we had case managers, but we didn't even really have many of those. So in the 80s, I applied for Social Security. I was turned down and assumed that no meant no. I didn't know any different, and went on to do things that were less than ethical to make a living because I didn't know I could have the assistance of a legal attorney or of a legal advocate to help me, get Social Security. And if I had to go back on Social Security tomorrow, I would probably do that first, is go find myself an attorney. Okay, the next slide, slide 10, talks about individual or peer advocacy. And this is probably the one most of us will be familiar with. It says individual or peer advocacy involves advocating for another. it would probably be best described as advocating with another, because we never really try to do things for people. We try to do things with people. And peer advocacy is support from people who themselves use or have used mental health services. When we talk about peer, we're trying to make a connection between us and other folks who have used the mental health system. And where I see most of the focus is people who have used the public mental health system. And we're trying to help each other. And the great thing about peer advocacy, and the reason I believe that this works, and I believe that it all works, is because it's people who have been through the system, or people who are in the system, helping people who are also in the system. We use ways and means and experiences that we've had ourselves. One person is navigating his way through the system who has found ways to do it, or has navigated their way through the system, helping another person navigate, excuse me, I'm getting tongue-tied here, helping people navigate their way through the system. It's us helping one another. We have personal experience, and I think that personal experience is so important. It's easy for someone to tell you, oh, well, you have to do this, this, and this, or, this is what the regulations are, or this is how it all reads on paper. It's much different than someone saying, hey, I know, I've been there. This is how I got through it. This is how I navigated the system. This is what I found out our rights were, and this is how I was able to apply them. I think that is so much more powerful. And I believe it can make it so much easier for a person who's trying to navigate the system to have, to get some help, to get some info from someone who's had to do it. It's not just someone who read a book, or someone who believes they knows the regulations, or someone who acts as a gatekeeper. It's someone who's actually walked through the gate and been successful. Or sometimes maybe someone who hasn't been successful but now knows the road that two people can walk together. This can involve expressing their views or acting on another's behalf to protect rights or secure services which they are entitled. It's like I said, the whole thing about one helping another, someone who knows the way, helping someone else protect their rights. I mean, I can remember in the 70s, patients' rights was an oxymoron. It's two words I never heard together. They existed, but because we didn't have that, that whole concept of peer advocacy, of peer support in my county yet, I had never heard of it. This stuff all existed, but it never trickled down so we, got around to one peer helping another, to one peer expressing things to another. I can remember being in the hospital in the 70s and being told, well, you can't talk about what you're going through or what you're feeling, what you're thinking with the other people in the hospital. If you do, we'll separate you. I was already separated in the hospital. I didn't want to be I was already separated by being in the hospital. I didn't want to be separated more and be kept in seclusion and be kept by myself. And so I kept my mouth shut. And today that would be ludicrous, because today exactly what we're talking about is self-help. Something that's become big. It's become, popular. We don't have to hide it anymore. But then we didn't have this advocacy. We didn't have people speaking up. We didn't have people speaking out in my county. So I had no idea. So I learned to suffer in silence. Okay, give me a second. My computer, for some reason, just locked up. Oh, there it goes. Now it's going to change to page 11. There we go. Now we're going to go on to self-advocacy. And self-advocacy essentially means speaking up for yourself. It involves a person expressing their own needs and representing their own interests. Forgive me one second. We just had something pop up on the screen here. I don't know what I've done.
Bill, if you break my machine, you'll owe.
I know.
You'll owe New York State.
$12.
$12, yep. Okay, forgive me, I'm going to start again because I lost my place. But we're talking about self-advocacy, and it means speaking up for yourself. It involves a person expressing their own needs and representing their own interests. Self-advocacy is acting in the least intrusive manner to invoke change and in the quality of life for you. Self-advocacy does not mean you have to do it yourself or you have to do it alone. So I just want to go back to it. It says self-advocacy is acting in the least intrusive manner. Okay, you know, it goes to a lot of assertiveness, which is a whole different topic that we really can't get into now. But you know, when we're advocating for ourselves, you know, a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people used to come to me as an advocate and say, I want to sue. You know, they want to go right to the most intrusive manner of solving a problem that you could find. And really, you know, you want to start simple. You want to start small. You know, it might start out with just like a personal request. Hey, can you help me? You know, this is how something is affecting me. Can we change it? Can we stop it? You know, the days of, you know, chaining ourselves to psych center doors, you know, the days of like protest and outrage, I believe, are over. In fact, you know, something I'd like to make a clear distinction on is the difference between activism and advocacy. And activism is something very different and something, you know, we won't be handling in today's webinar. You know, I'm not a big proponent of activism today. I know there are some folks who are, but I gotta honestly say I'm not one of them. You know, I believe in trying to do things today in a polite, respectful manner, you know, and starting out with the path of least resistance and working our way up. And, you know, like I've said before, I'll say it again, and it'll probably be the last thing I say in this webinar, is that self-advocacy does not mean we have to do it alone. And any of the other types of advocacy that we use in our self-advocacy efforts are good. You know, there's strength in numbers. It's about our voice being heard. You know, it's about getting our needs met as individuals. Yeah, it doesn't mean we have to do it individually. You know, it's one of the great things about peer support is today we don't take things on alone. You know, we ask for help. Although, you know, I'm sure there's folks listening that can agree. Asking for help is sometimes hard. You know, but if we get connected in our peer communities, you know, the help is there. We just have to reach out. And sometimes the help reaches out to us. I know I'd asked one person if they wanted to come and join me today, and they're, I think, actually in another state. So then Brenda called me today and says, hey, do you want me to come along? I said, yeah, great. You know, there's strength in numbers. There's support in numbers. Let's see if I can find slide 12 without breaking this thing on Tony. They're going to charge me $12 or whatever this computer's worth if I break it.
All right, give me your motorcycle.
Yeah. Tony wants me to trade him his motorcycle for the computer if I break it.
You can also do either page down or one of these.
Okay. Okay, we're going to start talking about basic advocacy tools. And this is something like when I'm meeting with people, I like to brainstorm on all the different advocacy tools there are, because the way I learned it, what I believe is there's actually three. And, you know, I'm one of the guys who have tried to come up with all these different tools and all these different ways that we can do advocacy. And, you know, it essentially comes down to three, and we're going to look at what they are. Although this is something that usually takes 40 minutes, it'll probably take 2 because, okay. Tony's trying now to get me to not break his machine. There are 3 basic tools of advocacy. To provide advocacy in any form, you'll have to use one or more of these. These advocacy tools are also the foundation of negotiation skills, which is also you know, skills in negotiation is a workshop I love to do. If folks are ever interested, I'm willing to come out and do it. I would hope not to do it in a webinar because, like I said, I like things more interactive. But, as advocates, negotiation is the one real tool we have. In negotiation, I would describe as the art of getting to yes. But these tools we're also going to talk, these tools we're going to talk about are also the foundation of negotiation. To become a seasoned advocate, you'll have to become a skilled negotiator. How do you become a seasoned advocate, a skilled negotiator? Practice is the only way. I mean, people have complimented me and told me that I was a good advocate. I don't know that I always see it, but I appreciate the comment. What experience I do have in advocacy, only came through practice. Only came through helping people, and trying to learn to help myself time and time again. And I'm one of those individuals that I still, to this day, I find it easier to help someone else than help myself. It's, for whatever reason, always easier for me to, help someone else find a path than it is to find the path for myself. And it's, to this day, if I have a problem, if I need advocacy, in my self-advocacy, the first thing I do is I find someone to help me communicate. Particularly, like, when I have a situation that directly involves me, I get emotional. I find it more difficult to communicate. Or if I'm working with someone who I can communicate with one-on-one, or someone who, knows me, it makes it much simpler, And I've had the great fortune to work with people over the years that I've advocated with so many times and worked with so well that I could lose my train of thought in mid-sentence, and they could just pick right up, and just go right on without skipping a beat about what I'm talking about, or what I'm trying to express. So now we're going to go on and we're going to look at the basic tools of advocacy on the next slide. Oh yeah, Tony showed me a different button to use. I better use it. Or if that one doesn't work, I'll try another one. Because he's going to accuse me of breaking his beautiful, beautiful, beautiful high-dollar Dell computer here. Okay, here we go. The first one, letter writing. In letter writing, it can be an art. And I'm not saying it's an art that I'm a master of, but, I can do pretty good at putting things down on paper if I put it on paper, take a breath, look at it again later, or, ask someone else for input. The great thing about letter writing is you can ask for input. Some of the things it says here is limit the cover letter to what letter, limit the cover letter, which explains the problem, to one page. I'm honestly not used to reading my own handouts. I usually just, take off and start going from the heart, and like I said, I have people to interact with. So here I'm trying to read it, and I find myself getting ahead of myself, and then I have a hard time reading it. But anyway, limit the cover letter to one page. Keep it simple. Whenever I have a problem, when I try to express it, it generally starts out in 1959 and goes forward. And so, if I just started writing, I could write page after page after page. And I have a real short attention span. So if I'm trying to read something, the first few maybe a few paragraphs, one written page is all I can handle. Beyond that, you lose me. What I've come to realize is, folks aren't so different. We can handle just the facts. So keep it short, keep it sweet. We can leave out peripheral materials and news clippings and reports and all this stuff. And, if you think they're important, you can just mark on there that I have these other supporting documents or whatever available on request. Just keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it what people can handle, what people can focus on, because, by paragraph 3 or 4, you're losing me. I'm starting to think about the Mets game. I'm thinking about the weather outside. Short and sweet is what I like. I've realized that other people do too. Okay, I'm going to try and go on to page 15 without breaking anything. Something over here is buzzing.
Oh, that's just folks. We're gonna take a break
Oh,
in a couple of slides here. So if you've got some questions, please send them in. So we'll take a break for question and answer.
Oh, you're going to let me know when the break's on, right? You're going to give me a high sign or something when to break?
Yeah. Is that right?
Should you just go one too many slides?
Did I go too many? Okay. So this is not an advertisement for Office 2007 because we just put 2007.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, this wasn't made in 2007, so that might be a glitch. Oh, I'm on the web. I better be careful what I say about Microsoft and Mr. Gates. He'll come back to haunt me later. Okay, phone calls. The second tool that I've seen is phone calls, and it says introduce yourself right away and explain that you are asking for assistance. If you actually get a live person when you first make the phone call, keep that real short. Because the person you get on the phone is probably not the person who's going to help you, okay? So, giving them all your information is probably just going to overwhelm them. And you're just going to say, well, hold on, I'll try and connect you with so-and-so, or this is who you're going to need to speak to, or something of that nature anyway. So just a short explanation, this is the kind of assistance I'm looking for. Also, although the person who answers the phone probably won't be the person or might not be the person to help you, it's real important to it's a real good person to make friends with, because, you don't want to tick off the person who answers the phone because they have the connection to the person who is going to help you. So, you really want them to be you really hope for them to be your ally. That can be a real make or break situation. They can put you in touch with someone who might be trying to avoid you, or they could make it so you have difficulty getting in touch with a person or even finding the right person. The person who answers the phone can be a real good ally. It says, do not become frustrated if you are led through an automated answering service or transferred several times. It may direct you to the right place. But I know, all the time these phone systems and these answering systems get more and more complicated, more and more frustrating. Something I like to do, and sometimes it works, is when I first get caught in them systems, I hit 0, on my phone and try to get to an operator, trying to get to a live person. The whole thing about not becoming frustrated, for me, is difficult because I get frustrated easy in these phone calls. And, it's sometimes helpful for me if I have someone just there with me while I'm caught in this phone system, and someone I can express my frustration to while I'm in there. So when I actually get to a live person, I don't accidentally let them have it. Like I had Greta here with me today, just someone I could, have sit with me. And while I go through this phone system. It says, be ready to explain your problem briefly. Something I like to do is, if I'm going to make a phone call, I like to get out a notepad ahead of time, and it's a great idea to have a spiral-bound notebook or something with you when you're making a phone call to write down all the information that you get on that phone call, people's names, who you spoke to, what you discussed, what time of the day you discussed it, and all this stuff. And I found it the hard way, I found it's real important to put it in some type of notebook. Because I'm the kind of guy, I'll write it on a scrap of paper or a loose piece of paper and then immediately lose the piece of paper. And I find that spiral-bound notebooks are harder to lose, but easier to lose the piece of paper out of, the page I need most. The composition notebooks, usually you get them like, sometimes like 2 or more for $1. Have the pages that are like bound in tight, and those are real good, for not losing the pages or losing the book. But I like to, write out what I'm writing, but I also like to write out ahead of time what I'm going to say. That way I don't get so nervous, and when I do get nervous, I don't start to stutter as much. I don't forget things if I calmly write them down before I pick up the phone. It really helps me a lot. And I'm the kind of guy, I got to tell you, I have a lot of, phones are not my best message of communication. I went through this thing in I guess it was 1998, where whenever the phone rang, I knew I was being watched. And it's something that I didn't really, phones weren't my favorite thing before that, but after that, it's something I never truly got through. There's still sometimes this day when the phone rings, I'm like, how do they know I'm here? They probably don't, but they're calling. But anyway, it's just, so writing things down ahead of time helps keep me calm, helps reduce the paranoia, helps reduce my fear, helps reduce my frustration, and also helps me communicate better with the people I'm trying to talk to. And also, having someone with me when I do that helps me practice what I'm going to say, So I don't give them that ball of yarn, that ball of stuff that starts in 1959. People can help me break it down, into short, sweet, to-the-point sentences. I'm going to try and find slide 16 without breaking Tony's computer. Wow, that one went quickly. Make sure the people you speak to have your full name in at least 2 different ways to reach you. It could be a phone number and a backup phone number. It could be a phone number and an email address. What's a mailing address? Definite ways to get a hold of you. And it's gotten easier with email. I'm a big email person. It's just, for me, it's a real comfortable way of communication. While you're on the phone, take notes. It's like we already talked about. Write down what you're talking about, who you're talking with, any agreements or disagreements you have. Be sure to ask for the other people's name and title. Write down along with the time of the call and what was said during the conversation. Still no quick?
No, there's so we don't have any questions just yet, but I wouldn't mind just taking a brief break because I have a question.
Okay.
So Bill, we've talked. I heard you speak about when people's rights are violated. Now, clearly, as a recipient, when my rights get violated, I have the high moral ground here. So what I find more often that happens, though, is not so much that there's a rights violation, because people will usually, if it's pretty flagrant, people who I found will usually correct it quickly, because they can get into a lot of trouble. The providers can get in a lot of trouble if they do that. What I find more often is just disrespect, which is not necessarily a rights violation.
I have to disagree.
Okay.
We have a right to be treated with dignity and respect. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Okay. No, I agree. We do have a right to that, but it can be. I just find it's something that when I hear from people when they make complaints here to this office, is that it has more to do with an inability for 2 people who are not able to communicate, and one person feels disrespected, and then things sort of escalate, whether that's a staff person or a recipient. So what I'm asking is, are those different kinds of advocacy tools, or is that a different kind of advocacy? Let's say there's not just like a flagrant violation of rights.
Okay.
But just somebody, says something that you find offensive.
Now, can they hear?
You don't have a right not to be offended.
Can they hear us? I mean, is this strong enough that everybody can hear what we're saying?
Yeah. People can hear us.
Wow, that's powerful. Tools. Tools are actually just forms of communication, because advocacy is all about communication. I mean, whether, you know, I have physically been assaulted, or, you know, I just don't like the way I'm treated, you know, someone's attitude towards me personally. You know, advocacy is the same. I guess I'm having a hard time with your question.
Okay. Let's say a person just makes up a rule about something. So I'll give you an example. People have a right in our facilities. People have a right to receive communication. Mm-hmm. So they have reasonable. They say reasonable access to communication. I believe is what it's called. Reasonable access to a telephone. And word reasonable can be interpreted in a lot of different ways.
That's the way. That's the reason it's in there.
So we've had people, we've had facilities, and we've rectified it because of advocates and people alerting us, that created this very convoluted and very where you could only, if you were only on this particular level at this particular time, and only if you had done these particular things, then you could use the phone. Mm-hmm. That was considered reasonable. But that was just something that a staff person made up.
Okay, it wasn't part of.
So it wasn't written down.
Right.
So how do you grieve something if it's not written down? It's just something that an individual staff person is.
The least intrusive manner is to first contact the staff person.
Right.
You know, and they might be gung ho with that, so then you contact someone who's in charge of the unit and on up the ladder.
Just speak into this.
Okay. So you'd start, you know, you meet with the individual. Unless you felt threatened by the individual, then you might have to go right to the unit chief. And I would like to think that are we talking about state hospitals?
Yes.
Okay.
In this particular.
Because I would like to think that the administrations in state hospitals, most of them, and there's not a whole lot of them left, are starting to get it. And I would think that by the time you got the administration of a hospital, you know, management in the hospital, they'd agree that, yeah, you know, this is one person's rule. This isn't our policy.
Yeah. Well, in fact, that is what happened. Mm-hmm. You know, this was just something that developed on the ward. Mm-hmm. These things happen over time. Mm-hmm. I think that there's been a lot of science behind it, that humanity has a general proclivity mm-hmm. to just sort of gear towards that kind of stuff to make things easier for the staff. They have the power, they have the ability to sort of set this up. That's why we have these rights and these rules and these things in place, right. is to protect us from, you know, mm-hmm. just sort of gung-ho, ad hoc staff people, you know, who are probably trying to do the right thing, but, you know, it just got a little misguided.
Right.
So, but the administrators, once they found out about it, they put a stop to it, and it all changed, and people have access through the whole day now, so, to the telephone.
That's great, because, you know, usually that reasonable is off-program hours. You know what I'm saying? It's like 3 to 10, 3 to 11, whatever. I know in Middletown, in my neck of the woods, there was a payphone on the wall, and it was inside this wooden locked box. And they would keep that box locked as long during program hours, but that was reasonable. Of course, unless there was an emergency, you know, you could get a call through your caseworker's office or whoever, like a family member. But yeah, reasonable is one of those tricky words that's put in there for that reason. There's no solid interpretation.
Right, right. So when there's two different interpretations of the word reasonable, in this case, reasonable access to a telephone, mm-hmm. or if there's the way things are written, they can be guidelines, you know, instead of mm-hmm. policies. And then the guidelines are sort of interpreted, and it's good to have some flexibility, because you also don't want to have, you know, these rigid sets of rules either.
Right.
But you know, that's where it gets tricky for me. Is when there's not like a real direct, flagrant sort of violation.
Something I found in my own experience is, you know, helping define reasonable depends on one's own reputation. Okay. If someone is an agitator, if someone is themselves disrespectful, you know, the word reasonable becomes different. You know what I'm saying? When I worked as an advocate in a state hospital, Okay, it was a hospital where I had also received treatment. So when I first started acting as an advocate, I was Bill Gamble, the mental patient, bottom line. And, I would have to call places like Recipient Affairs, okay? I would have to call a friend I had who worked at Disability Advocates to help me explain to them exactly what I understood as reasonable. As time went on, as I built the reputation, and most importantly, as I learned to do things in a respectful manner, it just became, I became actually liked, by people who were my jailers. Today, on the occasion that I run into them, they think much more of me than I do of them. I'm still kind of scared of them. But they say, hey, Bill, But, yeah, we just have to stick to our guns. There are sports. I actually headed over here with the brochure from your own customer relations line.
Yes.
Someone I've had great success with. And also, I had I headed over here with your outpatients rights booklet, because there's a lot of phone numbers in the back.
Yes.
That I don't have with me now. But
well, what I was going to do, and I'm glad you brought that up, is when we come to that section of the PowerPoint, I was just going to talk a little bit, if it's okay with you, just talk a little bit about what we've been doing with customer relations. I'll also send out all of that stuff, because everyone who signed on today has an email address, so I can send that out to folks as well. We will be sending out a copy of the PowerPoint to everyone within the next couple of days. And I've got a couple questions here. So can you point us in the direction for more training resources, i.e. websites and that kind of thing? We just talked about a couple of pamphlets that we'll be sending out.
I can. I just don't know if I have the National Mental Health Self-Help Clearinghouse has a lot of technical assistance booklets and things online. I don't know their exact address, but if you Google the
what we could do is
National Mental Health Self-Help Clearinghouse, or if you Google Joe Rogers, they come up. You can also call the Mental Health Empowerment Project, which I'm going to blank on our own phone number at the moment, but
it's 518-434-1393.
Thank you very much. 518-434-1393.
And we'll also include those links in case we think of anything else. We'll include those links in the email that we send out to folks. Do you have, another question is, do you have advice for an agency that wants to start a peer advocacy program?
Yeah, call, what was that phone number?
Call 518-473, 434-1393. 518-434-1393. And again, we'll send that out on the web.
Yeah, and also you can contact me for now at billmehep@aol.com. It was something I'd be interested in talking to folks about and helping you find the resources. So that's BILLMHEP@AOL.com. I think that's really great. I think there's always room for more advocacy, and in my short lifetime, I've seen it grow so much, and there's always room for more.
Okay. Well, again, folks, just keep sending in your questions. We're going to take another break at the end of the program and answer the rest of the questions then. So with that, I turn it back over. Thanks, Bill.
So next slide 17 is, I still feel funny because they tell me there's people out here, but I can't see now. I mean, I so look, for me, the best part of any training is interacting with the people and seeing the faces of the people and, interacting. So this is kind of unusual for me, so forgive me. The next slide talks about meetings. And when we talk about meetings, we can talk about a large formal meeting or, just one person meeting one person. We're talking about doing things face to face is the third tool, if I'm counting correctly. But it says make direct eye contact and speak slowly and respectfully. And the time you have will be limited. Be on time and make good use of your time. I'd love to ask, how many folks have difficulty making direct eye contact, but you could all raise your hands and I would never know. but it's Bretta's looking right at me, and she makes it look easy. It's, something. When I started as an advocate, I had to actually work at. It was very, very difficult for me. It's something I literally had to practice in therapy. I had to, have my therapist. I'd look at her and talk to her. It was probably when I got into advocacy, I was in my 30s, and I had been seeing therapists and things all my life. It was probably the first time I ever looked at a therapist or anyone in the eye. But I had to practice it. I would sit and I would talk to my therapist, and I would look right at her, and after a while, I just start to drift away and become very difficult. I could only do it for so long. So she'd call my attention to it, and bring me back. So I'd look at her again, and I just had to start practicing it. And then I started taking that when I'm doing presentations, and I'd look out in the crowd, and I would find someone and fix somebody else's eyes who was looking at me, and it was very, very empowering. Look, I can do this. I can speak to someone, and I can look right at them. And over time, I've realized, and it's probably not just me, it's probably most people, but I've noticed when I look someone directly in the eye, I actually hear them better. I don't know if it's I'm seeing their lip, what it is, but if I'm looking directly at someone, I actually hear them better. And I don't know if it's just me. I think it's probably pretty common. If you can look someone directly and look face to face, it's so much easier to hear them. It's important to be on time. You're going to have you might have a limited amount of time. Punctuality is very important. It's I always try to leave a little early, and I'd much rather be early than be late. But at least I definitely try to leave a little early in case something happens. In case something slows me down. Because and punctuality is also, people take notice of that if you keep someone waiting. And I know a lot of people who will keep you waiting. If someone says to me, well, Bill, I'm going to meet you at 10 o'clock, I better look at more like 10:30 or 10:45, and that can be frustrating. And if I'm trying to advocate for myself, I don't want to give that impression like I'm treating you like your time isn't important. So I really want to be punctual. And I really want to try to make good use of the time, and I really want to try to stick to the facts. And, try to go with solutions. Something as advocates, something as individuals, something that we seem to get caught up in and is so counterproductive is playing the blame game. This is what you've done to me. This is the way you treat me. This is what you have done to mess up my life. Once I start by expressing something like that, I've lost the other person. You know what I mean? It's human nature. Someone starts putting the blame on you, and you feel attacked. You shut down. You're not really listening anymore. If you can explain it as this is the way I feel, this is what I'm going through. This is how you could help me. And perhaps even have the solution. Come up with a solution or possible solution. You'll be received by people so much better. It's that old thing, nobody likes problems, everybody likes solutions. Nobody wants to be made to feel like they're being attacked. Nobody wants to be made to feel like, they're to blame. But everybody likes to hear solutions. Everybody likes to hear how things can work better. Take people to support you along. Don't go alone. If I'm meeting with a person, I would like to bring at least one other person with me. If I'm meeting with two people, I'd like to bring two other people along with me. It could quickly get out of hand, but I'd like to have, to whatever degree possible, I'd like to play the numbers game. Two heads are better than one. Three heads are probably better than two. How many folks, I'm sure I'm not the only one, in my life, I've had problems with Department of Social Security or Department of Social Services. I've had problems, and I've called and eventually got an appointment to come in and meet with someone, and I'm the guy with the problem. I'm the guy who asked to have the meeting. Yeah, I'll go to this meeting and I'll sit there while someone on the other side of a desk chews me a new one and tells me what a bad person I am, basically, and what I'm doing wrong. When the solution is simple, if I had the problem, I should chair the meeting, or someone I bring with me should chair the meeting, and we should always take notes. Let's take notes as we go along. And generally, especially when I'm doing a skills and negotiation workshop, there's a section we talk about taking notes, and someone will say, "Oh, why don't we bring a tape recorder?" And for the life of me, I can't imagine many people saying, "Oh yes, go ahead, record our conversation." No matter how agreeable they're being, I know I wouldn't be comfortable with it. If someone asked me, said, "Bill, can I tape record our conversation?" But by the same note, I can't imagine anyone saying, "Please don't take notes," or "don't take notes." Because, first thing, the minute they said that, the light bulb is going to go off. Something is rotten in Denmark, or whatever that expression is, But it does, things like chairing the meeting, taking notes, bringing along a written agenda, These are the things we want to talk about, and this is the order in which we want to talk about it. And if you have anything you want to add, we'll leave room at the end. These things show people that we're prepared. These things show people that we mean business, and that gains us a lot of respect. That helps people be more interested in working with us. If questions arise which you cannot answer, make note of them and offer to get back to them with an answer. Then make sure you do follow up, okay? If someone has a question, or if someone needs a piece of documentation and you promise it to them, or you promise to get an answer, please make sure that you truly do follow up, not just try to patronize and say, "Yes, I will get that for you later." Because you might be in a meeting and make great strides, and then you don't follow through with what you need to bring back, and everything will be stuck. Okay, next on slide 18, talks about develop a plan for success. So we're going to start talking about, putting some effort, putting some planning into our self-advocacy efforts. Because what most of us do, I know from my own experience, is we have a problem and we just either try and deny it and wait for it to go away, or we just attack it or jump into it without any real thought. What we're going to talk about is putting some planning into our advocacy effort. And so we'll try and, without breaking Tony's computer, oh yeah, he wants me to use this button here. We're going to try to go to slide 19. And the first thing it talks about is define your objectives. What is the problem and what is the desired outcome of your advocacy effort? What exactly is the problem? Like I said, I usually start with 1959 and go forward with all the things that are upsetting in my life. When the problem might be simple, or not simple, but the problem might be something more specific. I have no place to live come the end of the month. I have no food. I don't have a pair of shoes without a hole in it. The therapy aides here at the hospital I'm in keep calling me a name that I find offensive. What is the problem and what is the desired outcome? I need food. I need a place to live. I need to be treated with respect. Okay. Define that, not just, I was born in 1959 and blah, blah, blah on. Short and to the point. What is the specific outcome? Sometimes we're going to find that we have many problems going on at once that are, we're just overwhelmed with problems. We can probably realistically only work on one at a time. We may try to work on them all at one time. We may have 3 things that are urgent going on. We may need to break out different times of the day to work on each one. But, keep it specific. Take the most, if you have more than one problem going on, take the most important ones first and work on them. Second, what type of assistance are you trying to receive? And who are you trying to identify? Who can help me with this problem? Or, where is this problem originating? And then most importantly, who can help me with this problem? Do I know anyone who's gone through this before? Do I know someone who has specific information about whatever type of problem I'm going through? Okay, we're going to try to get to slide 20 without breaking the computer. Excuse me while I get a sip of water. Okay, number 20 says, identify your audience. Who are you trying to influence? Who is the person who can help me? How do we find the person who can help me? Who has the power? And be sure those you meet with have the power to make decisions. If you're having a problem with your housing, okay? If you're having a problem with your housing, you probably don't want to meet with the janitor unless it's a cleaning issue, You probably don't want to, if you're losing a place to live, you want to meet with someone who has the authority to help you. Slight technical difficulty here, folks. Give us just 1 second.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened there.
I wasn't touching it this time.
No, you're good. You're good. Things happen.
These newer computers, they have something called System Restore on it, and they've become my best friend because. Okay, without breaking it, I will try to find slide 21. Okay, I'll try. I'll look for a different method of finding slide 21. Which the arrow is going also. So I'll try page down.
Yeah, try that. Let's see.
Oh, here we go. There it is.
Let's see. There we go.
Okay, develop an advocacy plan. Coming up with a plan ahead of time, actually, of how we're going to deal with our situation. And first, this is who will support you in your advocacy action. Where can I go to for supports? I know I could go to Breda. I have people here in Albany where I work who would help me with, my advocacy actions. At home, I have my family. I have I have my wife. I have my son. Who help me with a lot of things. My wife's a big help. Like I said, I'm not a phone person, but my wife is a phone person, so that works out. When she has problems, I'm a financial whiz, so I'll help her. Well, I shouldn't say I'm a financial whiz, but I'm real good with squeezing a buck and get it to go the farthest. So I help her with that. But I have supports at home. In fact, it's great because if I was to be facing involuntary hospitalization today, my wife would be my biggest supporter. My wife has no concept of the mental health system. She's from a whole different world, but she believes no matter what, I don't belong there. And that's good to have because the family I grew up in were be the first ones to say, "Please take Bill," and it's a very different feeling. What are the laws, policies, and regulations that support your position? Okay, whatever. Like I said earlier, this is America. I have no way of knowing all the laws, all the regulations, and all the policies that affect my rights and my entitlements and, things that I might have problems with. I generally have to find them as problems arise, But there are places I can find out and people I can talk to, Laws, not everybody has law books. But, the web today is a great thing. The New York Assembly website has all our state laws on it, be it, mental health laws or vehicle and traffic laws, criminal procedure laws. They're all on the web. You can find them. Then it's just a matter of getting together with folks and figuring out what the heck they say in legalese. And some folks are real good at legalese, and some folks aren't. So you just get together with folks and try to figure out what it means. Policies. All different agencies, all different programs will have their own policies. And, each state has its own regulations. And, we just have to find out what law, what policy, what regulation does affect us. And to my understanding, it goes like this. Laws are the most powerful, okay? And no policy, no regulation can trump the law. Second most powerful is the regulation. And no policy can trump the regulation. And the least powerful are the policies. And they're generally come up, they're like agency-specific or program-specific. They have their own policies. And a lot of times that's where you'll find your problems is with policies. But if you look up the ladder and you start researching regulations or you start researching laws, you can find where policies are in contradiction with your rights under regulation or your rights under the law. And if you find a way to express this to the people you're having a problem with, you can circumvent it because, like I said, the policies can't be in contradiction with the regulations, or regulations can't be in contradictions with the law. How you communicate these issues. Is it going to be done by phone? Is it going to be done in writing? Is it going to be done in person? Probably, from my experience, most time it is a combination of all three. And, if you have other people working with you, if you have other people supporting you, different people on your team, different people might be good at different things. I might be a little better letter writer. Someone else might be better with phone calls. Someone yet else might be better with the personal face-to-face speaking. I know there have been a lot of times I've had issues and I wasn't, especially if I was upset, I was not my own best spokesperson. No matter how nice I tried to be, when I'm trying to speak, I become nervous, I become agitated, and I go from passive to aggressive in a heartbeat. I don't mean to. So sometimes it might be best to have someone else helping me or someone else doing some of the speaking for me. It doesn't mean any time they're speaking what I want or what they want or what they want for me, or it means at no time that they would make decisions for me. They're just helping me communicate. And when you're doing that, when you have that kind of relationship, it's real important that ahead of time you make sure that you and this other person are communicating very clearly, and you're really, really sure that they are in 100% of your wants, of your desired outcome. So you don't get in the middle of some type of meeting and they try to steer you in their direction or someone else's directions, because that'll make things go bad real fast. What are the specific tasks and timelines, and who will carry out the plan? A lot of times I've seen folks have problems, and they meet with someone, or they make a request, and they get a yes. Someone who has the power agrees with them, but they've discussed no specific task and have discussed no specific timeline. So they'll say, yes, Bill, I agree, and you should change this other program, or you should be released from this program, or you should have a place to live on your own. If you don't find out, fine, when is this going to happen? When are things going to change? Things are probably not going to change. Just someone agrees with Bill, pats him on the head, and sends him on his way. And who's going to carry out the plan? How much is on my shoulders? How much are you going to help with? And please don't take things that are someone else's job, someone else's responsibility, and put them on my shoulders. Although I think as the systems and programs get smaller and smaller, that becomes more and more bigger. I know, with advocates in my county, there's, like I said, there's a max, there's 4 of them. As the agencies get smaller, they look for more and more things for the advocates to do that are actually their jobs. Well, go have the peer advocates help you with that. I'm busy. I have a caseload of 30. Well, If that's what your job calls for as a case manager, whatever, that's what it calls for. You know, we want to be careful in our self-advocacy efforts that people that we turn to for help don't take things that are a matter of their responsibility and put them on our shoulders. Still no question?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, I was thinking I was really bombing. Okay. The next slide is number 22, and wow, I changed that one really easy without breaking anything. Review and revise your advocacy plan. As you implement your advocacy plan, take time to assess what is working and what is not working. Figure out what should be added, dropped, or changed. You know, as you're doing things, you know, regroup. Think about what's working. Just if something is really not working, if you come up with this great plan and you go to put it into action and it's just failing miserably, don't go ahead with it. Take some time, go back, look for another way to approach the situation. It's funny. This is why I generally do things just with paper handouts. I don't, when I'm in the middle of a presentation, get into a lot of electronic things. But here we go. Advocacy planning guide and some things to include. Okay. You might want to make a formally written out. You know, what is today's date? What is the date of the incident? Define the problem. You know, simply, specifically, to the point. You know, what is the problem? What is relevant information that I have? What is relevant information that I can gather? State your concern in non-adversarial terms. And I think it was a guy named, used to actually work where I work now. I knew him as I was working elsewhere, and he was working for me. A guy named David Gonzalez, I believe, coined that, non-adversarial terms, you know. Like I said before, talk about solutions. It's trying to state something or concern without putting the blame on someone else, without looking to make an enemy. You know, a lot of times we will go into these advocacy situations and we'll see it as us and them. And yeah, like a boxing match. Greta's over here swinging her fists. But bottom line, you know, things are going to go much better if we see it as people working together. You know, if we try to see it as we're all on the same page. Even if in our hearts we truly don't believe it, you know, to make it us and them, the good guys and the bad guys, really isn't going to help us. It's just going to put up, you know, more walls and more obstacles to overcome. Okay, you know, the next one, an acceptable solution. What are the acceptable solutions? And, you know, when you're coming up with acceptable solutions, think about how things are going to work down the road. You know, if I can't get 100% of what I'm looking for or what I'm entitled to right now, what percentage could I be happy with? And then with that percentage, if it works for me today, is it going to work for me down the road? Well, I'm still trying to get 100%. You know, like say the season changes, you know, something, what is going to be acceptable now, what's going to be acceptable down the road? And who has the authority to correct the problem? What is their name? What is their title? What is their firm or agency, their address, telephone, and very important, the chain of command. You know, a lot of folks want to go right to the head of a company. They want to go right to the executive director. You know, they want to go right to the big cheese. And a couple of problems with that is, one is if you go right to the top, you've made a lot of enemies along the way. A lot of people who are going to feel the heat of the executive director, of the program head, whatever, because they didn't handle it before it got to the director. Also, following your chain of command increases your chances in that agency, in that program, in that whatever, to get to yes. Because maybe the guy in the lowest level that can help you says no, then you have another level to go to. You know, if you go right to the top and you get no, you know, you probably don't have the opportunity to go back down the chain backwards. You know, it gives you the opportunity to make allies along the way. You know, maybe some guys like, you know, well, I really would like to help you, but, you know, I have to answer to my boss. You know, let's talk to him. You know, you can make allies along the way to help you with people. You know, it's more people along the way to find creative solutions. Oh, yeah, let's use this button. Okay. Organizations that can help. You know, there's a lot of organizations out there, and I think Tony's going to. Did you see? I forgot what you said. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Just on the very first line here with the New York State Office of Mental Health Customer Relations line, we'll also send out the brochure to folks, and please, you know, share that information with everyone. To dovetail on the last slide and what Bill was talking about, you know, we do feel that it's best that when there are issues, they are resolved at the lowest level possible, or at the earliest time possible. But sometimes it just doesn't happen, or sometimes there's still something that is not resolved all the way or to your liking. And what we recommend people do is to call the customer relations line. Put in a report at the customer relations line. What will happen is you'll not only be doing your own personal advocacy in that way, but you'll also be doing systems advocacy. Because what will happen is when our licensing staff go out to visit these programs, they're going to look at this, and if there is a laundry list of, you know, multiple complaints about the same thing or about different things or about a particular staff person, maybe that person needs to be retrained or sensitivity training or whatever. But we'll have a record on file that they will look at, that they are using this much more than they used to, and that's what we've been referring people to do when we get complaints here as well. So there you go.
You know, and I think, once again, this is one of them situations where if we were all in the same room, I could ask how many people ever heard of the mental health customer relations line, because it's one of those things that it seems like the best kept secret in mental health. I mean, they're here, but a lot of folks haven't heard of them. But if anyone contacts me, billmahep@aol.com, I can get you a fax number where you can get a great number of the brochures for your program, because from my experiences, even being here at 44 Holland, they're difficult to get. And I go get them directly from Utica Press. So, but they're great. You know, it's a great program, I think, that's helped me and helped me help people. But for some reason these days, isn't heard about a lot out there. The second is the New York State Commission on Quality of Care and Advocacy for Persons with Disabilities. And I think they used to have an 800 number. Unfortunately, I only have the local number on here. Excuse me for one second. We have some type of drill going on here in the building, so forgive me. The second is protection and advocacy for individuals who are mentally ill. That's your local PAMI office. And I just have listed here ours for the Hudson Valley, which is Disability Advocates. But if you contact me, I'm sure I can help you find the PAMI office in your part of the state. The third is the Mental Hygiene Legal Services, and I have, like I said, I have our local office, but if you contact me, I'm sure I can help you find it in whatever part of the state there is. And then there's the New York State Bureau of Recipient Affairs, which is here, the office where Tony is. So one of the very few phone numbers I know by heart, and that's 518-473-6579. Just over the years of calling, I've memorized it. And then the Bureau of Recipient Affairs, they have field offices in all 5 parts of the state.
Yes.
For all 5 regions of the state. Now, ours local one is 845-454-8229. But you know, we have them also in all parts of the state.
I'll include all of the phone numbers for all of the field offices.
Great, you're a good man, Tony. Okay, and I guess this is an ad for.
So before we do next month's
okay.
thing, we've got a couple of questions here.
Oh dear, I hope I have a couple of answers.
All right. So do you have any tips for keeping your cool when things are not moving towards yes when you're in a meeting?
Mine are a lot of oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at the microphone. I'm not used to a microphone. Mine are a lot of deep breathing, and like I said, my big thing is the taking someone with me, someone who can help me stay cool. Because the bottom line is, I can't do it on my own. Personally, I'm sure there are people who are really good at it. I am just not one of them. So I like to have someone with me, someone for peer support. And when you find yourself losing your cool, you can always say, "Excuse me, I need to take a break," and physically leave the room, and hopefully leave the room with the person who came with you, and you can take 5 minutes to calm down. You can take 10 minutes to calm down, and this is can also be one of those things that show people that you mean business, and you're willing and you're responsible to handle yourself in a responsible manner. Because once you blow up, you've lost it. People don't want to work with someone who's just has a tantrum in the middle of a meeting. But if you take your time and you go and you compose yourself, and that is also might give people in the room a chance to talk while you're catching your breath. And someone might say, "Hey, I really like this guy, Bill. I really believe he can do it." And it might give people, that you're meeting with, one person might change the other people in a room and make things get to yes a lot quicker. But I'm really big on that peer support, and I really believe that taking a break in the middle of a meeting can be very helpful.
Okay, well that's it for the questions, but do you mind if I just dovetail on what you just said?
Oh, no, not at all.
One of the things that I found helpful is when you're getting ready to do a meeting, and it is, you are very emotional about it, is to anticipate that there will be times when you're going to need to step out.
Mm-hmm.
And to ask ahead of time for we consider it a reasonable accommodation. For people with physical disabilities, they have ramps to go into places. For people with mental health disabilities, we need those kinds of ramps too. And one of those ramps is to have the meeting maybe a little longer than you would normally schedule a meeting. So if it was normally a half-hour meeting, well, maybe a 45-minute meeting to an hour meeting, because I may need to step out for 5 or 10 minutes to gather myself and then come back in. So that's my ramp that I need.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to share that with
you. I appreciate it. I just want to express that, losing your temper, losing your cool, needing that moment, I don't think is something that is specific to people who use mental health services.
Right.
That is something that quite frequently, and probably I would think most frequently happens to the seriously and persistently mentally normal. The everyday Joes out there all the time blowing up. But it's just a good time. And it shows our persistence over the average Joe.
Right.
Because we'll say, "Please, let me take 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, everybody. I don't know how to end this thing, but thank you very much.
Well, thanks, Bill. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Good job. Our next month will be our last webinar for the year. We will not be doing one in December just because of the interference with the holidays and everything. We'll be picking these up again in January. So our next month one in November is personalizing PROS. PROS is personalized recovery-oriented services. We've been rolling this program type out throughout the state, mostly down in Long Island and out west and a little bit up north. But you'll probably be hearing, if you haven't heard about it, you'll probably be hearing a lot more about it. It's a relatively new program. I'll just read off of here, developed by OMH in collaboration with a lot of different stakeholders, including recipients. The program integrates treatment, support, and rehab services in a manner that facilitates the individual's recovery. The PROS programming is currently operating. Well, I already talked about that. So what is PROS and what does it all mean to you? If you can join our webinar next month, again, it's the last, next month. It will not be on the last Wednesday of the month because of Thanksgiving. So we're doing it on the 18th. Doug Drew, my counterpart down in the Long Island field office, will be conducting this. And there is the link to go to it. So, with that, I want to thank everyone for coming.
I just want to throw in a picture that I really am much better live and in person, and I am available. And thank you very much for listening.
Bye-bye, everyone. And again, there'll be a survey that comes up on your screen. If you please could just take a few minutes just to fill that out, and that'll get sent back to us automatically, electronically. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good job.
Thank you, Bretta.
That was great.